Your local again is
623.
Dad, it's taking me longer to recover.
but you're clear of any illnesses or
At this
whatever to
point.
come from that.
Yeah, at this point, no infection.
No complications. Basically healing the
Yeah.
wounds. You get a bunch of stitches too?
Oh, yeah.
That dog will keep you in stitches.
I think that was his aim. He did a good job at it.
Come over so everybody can see. There we go. How's that? We got you on there. You're the main person that need to see out here. You know what I mean?
I got a perfect face for radio, but not TV.
TV,
so much.
huh? I hear you.
TV, not so much.
I hear you. So how y'all been? Y'all been good?
Yeah.
That's good.
Doing all right, getting by, you know.
Good.
How about yourself?
I'll
Your
be,
family, you.
I'll be doing all right.
Good.
Yeah, we've been doing good. No use to complaining.
Oh, that's
We're on
good.
air. Good afternoon. You are tuned into WPPM LP, Philadelphia, people-powered media, and this is Labor Justice Radio. I am your host, Charles Clark, with my co-host, Jim Moran. How you doing, Jim?
I'm good. I made it to another week anyway, and it's good to be here with you as always.
Well, it's truly a pleasure to be here. Of course, I had a couple of questions about that a couple of weeks ago. Didn't know, wasn't sure how it might work out. But thank goodness it worked out fine. And I am here. So, today's show you should find very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk a little bit more about it when I come back. Can you hear all right without the headphones?
Yeah, I can hear fine. I'm good.
Or would you want a pair?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. What I
It's
do-
it's up to you.
Nah, let me see. Okay, yeah, this is good.
Okay.
This is good.
Richard, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what's going on? Well, since the last time I spoke with you, we have a new Supreme Court justice, which hopefully within the next couple of weeks, I'll get some labor lawyers on, and we'll talk about what cases involving labor are coming up before the Supreme Court and what could be the possible impact of this new Supreme Court justice on those cases. So when I get that arranged, I want to start using Facebook a little differently. I've just been using it, posting to Labor Justice Radio page, but because I'm in a couple of groups, I'll start spreading the word around.
All right, Mr. Ambassador, now you know.
We opened up with Marvin Gaye, what's going on?
Yes.
And I think that's an appropriate question, given what's happening with the Supreme Court now, with this administration. All of that kind of, all of those things. Unions may face a very difficult road, but at the same time, some unions or segments thereof may be making that road more difficult for themselves than is necessary. So this evening, we're going to talk about United Parcel Services versus the Teamsters. And we're only talking about one division of the Teamsters. Here to take us through this examination is Richard Hooker.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How you doing, Richard?
I'm doing all right. How about you guys? How you guys doing?
Okay.
Good, thank you.
Good.
Richard is a shop steward at the Philadelphia Hub. Philadelphia Hub, that's like where everything comes in and everything goes out
Right.
for this particular area. So, Richard,
Yes, sir.
let's start with contract negotiations. How did negotiations go?
Well, for the members, it didn't go good at all. For the company and the people in the office, it went very, very well.
Well, why is that?
Well, the company got what they wanted, the officials got what they wanted, but the members didn't get what they wanted. But at the end, we threw a monkey wrench in both of their plans, and now they want us to pay the price for that.
Okay. How does the rank and file feel about the representation that was at the table?
Not good at all. There was, if you look at it, there was no representation for the member. It was only for themselves and for the best interests of the company, not for the member at all.
Okay, now, this is a division of the Teamsters, right?
Yes, sir.
What is that division?
Package division. Small.
Package division.
Right.
Okay.
But also we had freight. Freight contract was up too, so they had UPS Freight along with the package division had the contract, right.
So, people in the package division are unhappy.
Well, both sides are unhappy, freight and package. And if you want to throw in it, I throw this in for free, the mechanics also unhappy. They voted their contract down as well.
Okay.
Could I ask this quick question?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned a monkey wrench
Right.
and a price to pay.
Right.
Could you explain that just a little bit?
Well, the IBT, International Brotherhood of Teamsters, along with United Parcel Service, they launched a $1 million campaign against the rank and file member during this whole negotiation process. I remember the last time I was here, we talked about how the company, UPS, was actually calling our homes, telling us, hey, the contract this and the contract that, having PCMs about the contract. PCM is a pre-communication meeting before we start work, telling us about the contract and giving us false information saying that it's passed and all these types of things. And so what happened is that at the end of negotiations, which we had a vote on the vote count was last Friday.
Right.
And the vote, the domestic contract was voted down. I believe the numbers were something like 55% to about 45%, around that, rough estimate. So it was voted down, to the dismay of especially the IBT and the company. So all the money they spent, all the phone calls, all those things they did, it didn't work, because the members across the country didn't like the contract.
Okay, now, they spent this money promoting the contract.
Yes, sir.
Were they aware at the time that the rank and file was displeased with the offer?
Yes, they did. And that's why they spent our dues money trying to persuade a lot of the members to go their way. And UPS did their part. What they did was they hired a lot of part-time young members, trying to tell them that, hey, look, if you guys vote yes for this contract, it'll be beneficial for you guys. And if you look at the contract holistically, it benefited the people who are coming in and not the people who have been there years and years and years.
One thing that's confusing to me about what's been said so far is the company sounds like it was negotiating with the rank and file around the leadership.
It wasn't around. I don't know what you're saying, but it was colluded with.
So I wonder about the legality of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But my issue is, I remember the last time I was on the show, you told me about that. Mm-hmm. But what happens if our officials co-sign that? What if they're saying, go ahead? What do you have? If the people who's supposed to protect me are working with the people who's ultimately against me, then what do you do?
What does the contract say? There's in the beginning of most contracts, It says that the union XYZ will represent is the sole bargaining agent for all those members.
And that's what it says.
XYZ.
That's exactly what it says.
So that tricks me up.
But when you in collusion together, this is because they're both. When they sent the ballots out to their homes, we got a postcard or a pamphlet or some other propaganda saying vote yes for this contract. In almost 20 years, I've never seen this happen ever.
Who sent that?
Our own officials. Our officials and the company. You couldn't even tell the difference between the two because there was so much alike.
But they both sent literature to your home.
Yes.
It's interesting.
And hanging up in the buildings. Hey, vote yes, this, that, and all this. It was unbelievable. I never seen anything like it.
What did the contract gain, if anything, and what did it concede?
Well,
anything?
Let's start with some of the things you would gain. Of course, more pension contributions, and more full-time jobs, and that's pretty much the only two things that you would get. Now, what you're giving up is a lot more. For example, the members want a stronger language on harassment, because a lot of people don't know United Parcel Service are they harass you unlike any company you may ever know. Now, they're number one in logistics, but they're also number one in harassment as well.
Well, when you say harassment, give me a couple examples.
For an example, we have in our collective bargain agreement that if you are violated in any way, you can file a grievance. So say if I file a grievance for supervisors working, which is a common everyday offense.
Right.
You file that grievance for the supervisor working.
Bargaining unit work.
Right. You file that grievance, you expect to get, the situation to end and to get your in our contract, whatever, if the supervisor works less than 2 hours, up to 2 hours is double time. Anything over 2 hours is straight time. So you file a grievance, you hope to get paid what you're supposed to get paid. Well, the manager may say, well, since you want to file a grievance, we're going to move you to an area you've never been before. Or we're going to watch you. We're going to overly supervise you. We're going to give you more work. We're going to talk to you some type of way. We're going to make it hard for you and make it difficult for you to file another grievance. And we're going to put you in a spot where if you don't like it, you may do something that you don't want to do. And guess what happened? They get rid of you. Right. So, and in another way, this happens all the time. I'll file many grievances. And the company actually balled them up and threw them, in the trash or threw them you can't do things like that. But this is what they do. When I tried to explained to members across the country about what was going on with the contract, I heard so many stories about how the division managers would just chew out and curse at the member while working and all these kinds of things. Even now, at our hub, we had altercation with a supervisor where the supervisor actually put his hand on the member, you know, and was allowed to work still in the building. Now, they got rid of him later on, but if it was me and you, a regular member, we're done. There's no staying in the building, none of the things. The rules don't apply to the member, only apply, well, I'm going to say this. The rules don't apply to UPS, just to the member.
Have any of these kind of grievances that you're talking about been carried to the level that, in other words, harassment for filing grievances is obviously against labor law.
Right.
Okay, that, you know, I mean, has anything been done in that direction at
No,
all?
because
unfair labor practices or anything like that?
Not to the point where to make it stop. Because we have language in the contract that's supposed to fix that, but they don't fix it. Right now, as it reads, it'll say the company will abide by Articles 36 and 37. 36 is a manager-employee relations article, and 37 is the actual harassment article. So we tend to combine both of those articles so we can get more leverage, but the remedy is still the same. The company would abide by 36 and 37. That's the article. That's the remedy that they always give us. But what we wanted was stronger language in this contract that'll fix that. So what they did was
So you guys proposed language?
Yes, to fix it, to make it stronger. So if all these things keep happening, then the member would get some type of restitution for this problem that occurs every single day. So, that was the number one issue. That was the number one issue, followed by overtime for the drivers. Then it was supervisors working, then going down the line. But the number one issue was harassment.
It sounds like a hostile environment.
It really
to say
is.
the least.
It really is. It's very hostile, and it's not in our favor. The language is not in our favor at all when it comes to harassment. So we proposed a language to make it stronger. What the union did was, in the beginning, the proposal was very, very strong. I think it would go up to like triple time pay or quadruple time pay if the supervisor, and even
financial penalty,
right, and even a strike if it became out of control. They took all that away and said you may or may not get paid. That's just me just shortening it up. Right. They have a sitting arbitrator that's there, but the bottom line is you may or you may not get paid. But the way we wanted it, we wanted something definite in the book to let me know, okay, if this keeps happening, this is what will happen to the company, or this is what will happen to the supervisor.
So you said a sitting arbitrator. You mean there's an arbitrator that is kind of on duty for cases out of UPS?
Right. It's I guess the company and UPS will come to an agreement on the arbitrator, and this arbitrator will be there, I guess, at all times for harassment situations, and he will be there or she will be there to give a final decision on.
You used to be able to pick from a list. They'd send a list to the company,
right,
and they'd strike off some,
right,
and they'd send a list to the union. We'd strike off some, and with what's left is we end up with one of them.
Right,
right. It didn't sound like that. It sounded like more permanency of one arbitrator.
Right. That's the way it seems. But again, there's no way to determine if you will or if you won't get justice for the harassment. And all they did was just put more words in for the same thing. Supervisors working, they say now if the same supervisor works, I think it's 3 times in the 9-month span, you will get triple pay. But the issue with that is they don't even follow the contract now when it comes to supervisors working. I just filed not long ago grievances for supers working, 5 of them, and my officials let somebody else sign for them and everything. But that's a story for another day, though. That's a story for another day. But this is the things that go on when the language is not strong enough in our contract to protect us from UPS.
So this one contract, is it like that contract is the leader contract for the country?
Yes, it's a national contract.
A national contract.
Right. Then you have the supplements for each region. Then they have their own, what they want for their area and this, that, and the other. But but there is some language in the master that affects everybody. Harassment, supervisors working.
Master agreement. I hear those words.
Right, those things. Then you have supplements that where you might have an out supplement where you might have when it comes to vacation time, you may have 7 personal days and 3 sick days here. But if you go up to local 804, I think it's like 5 and 5. Different areas have different things. Some days, some people have a Columbus Day off, others don't. Some have Martin Luther King Day off, others don't. Some have this, some have that. It's different according to the area.
How many workers are affected in Philadelphia, for example, and maybe nationally? How many workers are affected?
Nationally, it's about 260,000 UPS workers, union workers. I mean, here in the area, for my local, it's about 3,400 workers.
Yeah, it's quite a number of people.
Right, right.
I understand that during negotiations, there was some turmoil within the negotiating committee.
Yes, yeah. Our chief negotiator, Dennis Taylor, he's the president of Local 355 in Baltimore. He was the lead negotiator. In the beginning, we had some members from there's a group within the Teamsters called Teamsters United that have different. They won 6 seats. They have a lot of people that were on that slate, and they were on the negotiating committee. Well, Dennis Taylor kicked those people off because they were letting their members know what was going on. Because UPS and the IBT wanted to have this brownout, which we didn't know anything until the last moment about what was going on. So these guys didn't participate in that, so they got kicked off the negotiating committee.
Okay. It's always been my thought that the union would let the membership know what was happening.
Right.
So that if they called on the rank and file for some action, the rank and file was more motivated to act because they had information beforehand.
Right.
So how did, in response to the simultaneous campaign by UPS and the division of the Teamsters that represents United Parcel Service Workers, what kind of action, if any, was taken to, say, counter?
Well, what we did was we mobilized everybody that we could that knew what was going on with the contract and how it would affect us and our families and the future of the Teamsters. So all across the country, man, you had a lot of people. You had some leaders that did speak out and speak up for their members. And you had, little groups that had rallies. We went to the TV stations and to the newspapers. We did everything we could to let the company know, number one, and our officials know that we weren't going to take it. And they just kept ramping up the money. They kept sending propaganda to our homes, calling your house, calling your homes, trying to get this contract passed. UPS even would throw seniority parties for our members that made seniority. Now, I never heard this before. The company throwing a party for the members that made seniority in the union. I never saw this. Ever. But this was part of their game to try to get this contract passed. And it didn't work, Well, it didn't work on paper.
Okay.
It didn't work on paper.
Right.
But, like I said, with the IBT and them working together, to me personally, and this is just my opinion, I think it was more personal and political than anything. If the members vote down a contract, I think you should honor that. Now, in our Constitution, it does say that if less than 50% of the membership votes, then you have to have 2/3 of the voting members to, it has to be 2/3 of the members to vote the contract down.
Okay.
So we didn't have it. We had 55 to 45.
Right.
But the problem that I have with that is this. I know the members didn't vote. People just don't vote in any election, and that's a problem. So we're not going to excuse those people for not voting, but we had higher turnout than ever before in any election in the Teamsters. We had 27,000 more people that voted in 2018 than 2013.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So, and we voted the contract down. The master was voted down.
Right.
And right when it was voted down, the company released a statement saying, okay, we understand and we're willing to go back to the table to renegotiate, because all of us in this room knows that UPS cannot afford to go on strike at any time, but especially not right now. We're getting ready to go into Christmas.
Yeah.
So they can't. And now with Amazon raising their wage up to 15,
right.
and our guy was only 13, we had all the cards in our favor. We had everything. The company conceded, and the members showed you that they didn't want the contract. Now, I know what the Constitution says, and I get all that. But once the company says, I'm willing to go back to the table, I don't think it should matter what the Constitution says. It should matter what your members say, because they are in control. Supposed to be.
Right.
Supposed to be.
Yeah, that's.
Usually we're fighting like hell to get back to the table.
That's what I'm saying. So when you have everything lined up, everything is lined up so perfectly. Christmas time, the most profitable time, the members said no. And then, like I said, right when they found out, they came out with a statement on the news. We understand. We thought we had a good deal. We're willing to go back to the table. That's what UPS said.
Okay.
Now, our leadership said something totally different. They said, no, UPS, we're not going back to the table. Our members are going to take this contract, and that's it. We're going to ratify it. So UPS says, well, we understand the International Brotherhood Teamsters' decision to ratify the contract, and we'll work on the remaining supplements to get them ratified. Now, at that moment, UPS has washed their hands of all the harassment. You can't talk about the harassment no more. You can't talk about the supervisors working, because they were willing to renegotiate everything. It was our own people that sold us out.
Ultimately, was the contract ratified? And secondly, were there wage increases in it?
There were wage increases, but from the member standpoint, it wasn't enough. A lot of the part-timers, and that's the biggest part of their our bargaining unit, and their workers is part-time. You got a guy that's come off the street who's going to make the same amount as somebody that's been there 4 or 5 years. And they're like, oh, hey, what's going on? I've been here harassed, supervisors taking my money. I'm working in these conditions, and the guy going to come in off the street, hasn't done anything, and is going to make as much as mine. Now, you do want the wage to raise, but don't forget about the people that's there already. Don't forget about those people.
Right.
Take care of the people that made you all these billions of dollars and all these types of things. And then they created another job classification that would pay about $6 less for doing the same job as the driver classification, which makes about, at the end of the contract, the proposed contract, $40 an hour. But you're going to have somebody coming in doing the same job with no definite working and no rights as the guy who's been there making all that money. So he has more rights, and he's making $6 more than you.
Right.
And you want me to do that job, and I don't have no definition to the job. You can keep me outside all day. You can do whatever you want to do with me, but the guy I'm doing the same job, I'm doing the same work. He's going to be making $6 more, and he has protections.
Okay. So the part-time guy has no protection in this hybrid classification.
No. Whoever gets that job will have no 9-5 rights. Now, 9-5 rights are the rights that are supposed to kind of decrease the overtime.
How does something like that get in the contract?
You got to talk to the people that negotiated it. Like I said, those jobs, I think, were created to get more pension contributions, because you can easily have just create more driving jobs. and let them work their way up in seniority, because unions are built on seniority.
Right.
So if I got a guy just creating more driving jobs, that's it. Pay him the same, give him the same rights. Don't let UPS off the hook, because we have language now in that contract that is supposed to eliminate and help prevent excessive overtime.
Right.
So why would you create another class of driver to let UPS pay these guys $6 less to do the same job and give them no rights? I don't understand that. I don't get it. And so when people were up in arms about it, they try to come up with all this propaganda. They try to do all these things to try to get us to see it. But everybody I talk to see all the loopholes. When you don't have a definite description to your job,
right,
UPS is going to just do whatever they want to do. They try to do it now, and we have descriptions to our job. So what you're going to do with a job that has no description? You could be over here one day, you can be over there one day, you can work 15 hours this day. You have no rights, and that's not good.
That sounds like UPS gearing up for the Christmas season.
Right.
You know?
And Sunday delivery.
On the cheap. On the cheap.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
But what is unfortunate is that the union officials negotiating the contract were, you might as well say, were in favor of those kinds of provisions.
Right.
That's that's interesting. So, and I understand that, was that a provision that was put on the table by one of the union negotiators?
The chief won. He's the one that negotiated this, and proposed this, and this is the problem that I think a lot of people are having now, and because with right to work trying to gear up and all these politicians who don't like unions, and then when the Teamsters do something like this, because you guys know this, a union was put together to give the worker a voice on the workplace. So what the Teamsters essentially just did was take our voice away from us, because we voted it down. Your vote is your voice.
What happened to that vote?
But they just say we're going to implement the contract. They went to the Constitution and said, well, 2/3, we didn't get the 2/3 no votes because we had less than 50% of the members vote. So they used that in our Constitution to override what the members wanted. And to me, that's just personal, because to me, they felt some type of way that they spent all this money trying to get us to vote yes, and we beat them. UPS spent all this money, and we beat them. We took 6 seats away from Hoffa and that regime. They didn't like that. We beat them in the United States of America when it came to the vote. They didn't like that. All these things that we did as a unified membership, and they couldn't take it. So this was their way. Because there's not one person in this room, if you guys were sitting at the head table and your members voted on the contract, and the company was willing to go back to the table because they had no choice. They couldn't afford for us to go out this time of year. Amazon raising their wages up, They can't afford that. You have every favor. Your members delivered for you, and you spit it in their face.
Was part of this problem here in the turmoil due to like two factions within the union fighting each other?
Right.
Is that part of the problem?
Right. That's a big problem. That's a big problem that we have in the Teamsters. We fight each other so well. I mean, I watch other unions and at their conventions. It's so professional. Everybody is pleasant. It's true brother and sisterhood. True. But when it comes to the Teamsters, it's like we'll fight each other before we join up and fight the company. And with a display like our officials that did to us, all you're giving is the right to work people more ammunition. All these legislators who want to take away union rights, you're just giving them more. I saw a picture where it had, I think it was on Facebook or something, where it had a union official in front, money coming all out of his suit, money coming out of his briefcase, and he had 2 rank and file members behind him in chains. And he was, you know, you know what I mean? And when you see that, you're like, wow. And I got members in my own shop coming up to me and say, hey, Hooker. Now, from my understanding, right to work, if you live in a right to work state and you decide not to pay union dues, you don't have a voice in collective bargaining. I say, you're absolutely right. And then their rebuttal is, well, I pay union dues here, and my vote didn't mean anything. So why am I paying union dues?
That does feed the forces that you're talking about.
You see what I'm saying? So how do you beat that? You know, and everybody want to blame the people that vote and that don't vote, and I get that. I trust me, I do. But when UPS said we'll go back to the table, all of that Constitution stuff should have went out the window. Always go with the member. Always. Always go with the membership. Don't go with pride or political reasons or person. You got a personal vendetta. Always go. Always go with them.
Right. And so, next steps.
What happens now?
What happens?
Well, there is a lot of people filing petitions to try to get senators involved, other legislators involved to see can we do something. I know I reached out to a few people. I reached out to the news. You know, I don't know if anything's going to come about that, but I think what we need to do as rank and file members, we have to take control of our union. You have to get these guys that's in office. You got to get them out of office. You have to. And then when it comes time to make changes in the Constitution so this won't happen again, we got to have the people there to do it. Because me complaining to you and complaining to you, Mr. Charles, that's not going to help anything. Show up. Put your money where your mouth is at. Stop complaining, and let's take it back. It's ours. It's not theirs. It's ours. There should be some type of care and responsibility, something that belongs to you. And something that belongs to you, you're just not going to let nobody just do whatever they want to do with it. It's our union. We paid for it.
So how often are there elections?
For the international, every 5 years. So in 2021. And for our local here, it's next year.
Okay.
And so, you know, we're doing whatever we can to get these guys out of office. I mean, they've been in office just as long as Mr. Hoffa and that whole regime. So whatever he does, it trickles down to them, and they're doing the same thing. These are the same people. When we had our convention in 2016, they had a chance to go fight for the members. They did everything they could. Now we went, myself and a few others on our team, we went because they were too much of a coward to go and stand up to and for the members. You know what I mean? And we had a chance then to change some of the language in the Constitution that this wouldn't happen. Now, when in 2016 they laughed at us, they tried to sabotage us from going. We had to go through so much stuff to get out there and to stay out there. It was our own people. It wasn't a company. It wasn't Trump. It wasn't Obama and everybody want to blame all the politicians. It was our own people.
Okay.
So we got out there. We got shot down because we didn't have enough people out there. You know what I mean?
Right.
But we weren't afraid, and we're still not afraid to go fight. But the bottom line is people got to stand up. They have to. They have to stand up and take this thing back. Because if we don't, the next contract is going to be the same thing. The next time it's for elections, it's going to be the same people just taking our money.
It has been my position from the start of doing this radio broadcast from here that the rank and file has a responsibility to themselves.
Yes.
Being a union member, I feel it's a good thing. But it also comes with some responsibilities. And unfortunately, a lot of rank and filers take it for granted that the union, meaning the union officials, will take care of them.
Right.
Or whatever comes up.
Right.
And I think here is a glaring example of what can happen if rank and file does not participate in what is happening in their local union.
I think, I have to agree with you that it's kind of like people think they're participating in the American democracy. They still call it a democracy, but they think they're participating because they vote. It ain't enough.
No, it's not.
And if you elect people, you got to keep their feet to the fire to make them deliver what it is you elected them for, okay? And that's a great responsibility that not only everyday voters in the street have in a democracy, and rank and file members have in a union. Because you'll hear the rank and file say to you often, what's the union going to do?
Right.
Okay.
Hear it all the time.
They don't realize that they're the union, and their voice has to be amplified.
Right.
And they don't do that. They go home and go to sleep. They have an election and they go forget about it.
Right.
That's just insanity.
Right.
It's still their union.
Right. Right.
Yeah. That's like the recent action by teachers in various states. They all banded together across the state. A lot of times it's teachers from a particular municipality or city. But these teachers organized across the state, okay, and were able to accomplish some great things.
Right.
Not only that, you put your finger on something. Why are the teachers in the crosshairs of the right wing and the anti-unionists in this country? Because they have the numbers, they're large, they're strong, they have a bankroll. The enemy hates the fact that these unions, like the teachers' unions, can put some money in a campaign almost on an equal basis. We can never beat the rich money,
Right.
Yeah.
but we got the bodies.
Right.
We got bodies, and we can do stuff. And so they're a great example of why they're going to go after the largest and the strongest. They're doing everything they can do to kill the dues collection that creates the war chest that can be donated to, for example, Democrat candidates, for example. So it's real plain as the nose on our face what's going on. And without that motion from the bottom, it's not run from the top. The motion is in the bottom.
Right.
That's the key thing. And for that motion to have a continuation, the bottom has to stay educated.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay?
I agree with you again. I think that the light bulb in a union hall should never go out. Every night should be training, films, speakers, etc., workshops.
Well, this used to happen. The Catholic Church, back in the 40s and 50s, I think it was, they had one night a week where they had workers come in and they talked about workers' rights. Okay?
I've even seen them have guest speakers in sermons on Sundays from unions,
Oh, wow.
Well, this wasn't the union. This was the church.
Well, those alliances need to be strengthened.
I agree.
The labor movement can't kind of succeed, if you will, on its own. It needs to
help. Yeah,
join
help.
Hands with
other people in the community. Right.
Absolutely.
Right. I agree.
I'm looking up this article that I read talking about how the Catholic Church used to conduct these meetings, I guess you could call them training sessions. But when I came across this, here it is. Oh no, that's something different. When I came across this article, I was, because it was the 50s, Okay.
I was going to say it had to be a while ago. It ain't been happening lately.
Right.
I wasn't involved. Here it is. Teaching the rank and file. Once ubiquitous in working class communities, labor schools have come to decline. Their history holds lessons for any future revival of working class activism. There was once a time when the Catholic Church was at the forefront of worker education in the United States. This is from the Jacobin magazine. And I found it very interesting.
Well, there used to be a lot of stuff in Philadelphia. St. Joe's, I think, was a big player in that.
Oh, yeah,
in that
St.
kind of
Joe's,
stuff.
Tom Cronin.
Yeah.
He ran the labor school. Past president of Local 47.
District Council 47 of that street. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he used to run the labor school there. But all of that has declined.
Not only that, that school had to make a certain amount of money. The program that you brought there had to make a certain amount of money, which wasn't really happening.
Right.
Right.
Unions don't seem to be sending their members to learning institutions.
They don't want them to learn. They want to keep the same people in office. They don't want the members to. They want them to be as dumb, I hate to say it, as possible. And so, because a lot of problems can be resolved on the shop floor, but your members got to be educated enough to handle those problems.
Right. That's right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Very true.
Right.
Very true.
But we don't teach our members. We don't show them how it's done. We don't do anything, but we take their money though.
Let me give you a simple example along the lines that you're talking about. I've been in unions where at the executive board meeting you would hear, well, Joe and Harry's grievance that is now been through its third steps and all that, we take it to arbitration. And there was always a guy at the table that would say, what did they do on the shop floor? Are the members really tuned up to this grievance, and do the members want their money spent on arbitrations, et cetera, when they could possibly do things right at the local shop floor level,
right,
to win the grievance right there before it goes anywhere, okay?
Right.
And that's the thing we've forgotten, the mobilization of the rank and file,
right,
and utilizing the rank and file for what they should be.
That's right.
The soldiers that are going to back the whole union contract. What good's a contract if nobody's going to back it and enforce it?
Well, that's true.
right.
And the thing is, what has seemed to turn is that the union reps, union officials are negotiating contracts that are more favorable to the company than their own members.
Right.
Okay? When a union rep can say to me with some pride in their voice that they got their members during contract negotiations, they implemented a 401k type pension. Okay? Now, a 401k is great if the stock market is doing great. But if the stock market is doing bad, like it did in 2007, 2008,
Right.
you lose a lot of that retirement money.
Take away all of it.
Okay?
The whole thing can go, you know?
So a 401k is not the best thing for an everyday working person.
No.
If that person wants to put into a 401k, well, they can't, but they can sure put into an IRA.
Right.
Okay? That's their option. You know? But to solely depend on a 401k is risky business.
And most of the pensions right now, by the way, are not properly funded anyway.
Right.
you know, the management is supposed to put X dollars per week into your
into our pension, right?
And whenever people check, I hear things like anywhere from it's 40% solvent or 60% solvent, or if it's 70 or 75% solvent, it's probably one of the strongest in the country. You know what I mean?
Well, there, I think it's the Midwest region for the Teamsters. The pension for the Midwest region is grossly underfunded.
You probably mean Central States.
Central States,
right.
yeah. Central States.
Right.
It's grossly underfunded. And I just read a report in the last couple of days that that pension fund was given the okay to once again reduce the amount of the payout to the pensioners. This is not the first reduction. This is a reduction on top of another reduction that was granted earlier. Okay? And there are a number of what is called multi-employer pensions, which, if you have a Teamsters pension, it's multi-employer.
Right.
That are in trouble.
Right.
Either because the company didn't make the proper contributions, they didn't withhold the proper amount, something. Whoever is at fault, and I haven't really investigated to see what the root cause is, but again, it's union officials not taking care of rank and file, and rank and file not taking care of their business.
That's great, because that's what happened in our supplement. The number one thing that our principal officer came back and told us that if we didn't vote yes the first time on the supplement, that we would have to pay a percentage. We wouldn't get our full raise that the company was going to give us. We had to take part of that raise and put it into our full-time pension. But the issue that a lot of us have with that, and all I did was, when someone tells me that the pension is in trouble or anything, I want to see the paperwork that shows me why. Like for our pension, the Philadelphia and vicinity pension with the Teamsters, they said it was $6 million short. So what I did was I called up to the pension over in Jersey, and they told me, well, we're okay, we're moving in the right direction. So then he comes back and says, well, we're $6 million short, and there is nothing that shows me why we're short, or there's not telling me why this, that, and a lot of people fell for that. And, and to me, that's another issue, because all of us, when we get bills, especially our energy bill, when they tell you, Mr. Moran, you owe this amount of money, it shows you why you owe this money.
Yeah, I mean, you're entitled to that.
Right, but this guy, he comes back and says, in the month that the contract was set to expire, the pension is short, if you don't do this, this is what's going to happen. You're going to lose this money from your raise, this, and this. All the full-timers who's in that pension, they got afraid, scary. And if you look at our numbers, for the national was shot down here at 623 by 115 votes. But the supplement with that language, if you don't vote yes the first time, it passed by 8 votes. So you're talking about a difference of 107 votes who were nervous and scared, all this other kinds of things. But it wouldn't have mattered anyway, because according to our chief negotiator, he would just implement the contract anyway. So it wouldn't have mattered.
It seems to me, and I got a thick head. It just bothers me, and I can't get it answered straight. In other words, if you negotiate a contract and there's $3 on the table per hour, let's say, and 50 cents of it is put aside for pension.
Right.
Okay. That means that they're going to put 50 cents per hour from your wage in the pension fund. Okay.
Right.
That's my understanding of it. Maybe I'm oversimplifying
that's
it.
Right. That's right.
But let's take it the other step further, and you say, well, $6 million shy, they're short on this pension fund and that pension fund. In other words, they did not put the contributions in that they contractually agreed to do. And as for my money, they stole the wage. That was part of my wages.
Right.
So I don't think I've ever seen anybody go to jail for stealing workers' wages like that.
And you probably won't.
Really, not in the near future, I'll tell you that.
But rank and file has to get involved.
Yes.
Right. They can't just point fingers and blame one guy, let's say, who's the elected official. Well, yeah, I mean, it's not sterling on his side either, but we're responsible. We got a guy in the White House. A lot of us didn't vote for, but we didn't do our job. Some of our own members, many of our own members, voted for Trump.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, they did.
That's our fault. And like you said, not enough education.
Yeah, not enough education, participation from either side, from either
perspiration.
Side. Yeah, a lot of perspiration, a lot of hard working in there now. Oh, yeah.
Well, one of the things that I look at in this whole scheme, I look at the politicians, once they get elected. When they first get elected, they're off and running.
Right.
After a few years, they slow down a little bit. But after they've been there for a decade or more, something seems to happen.
Right.
Their brain seems to get scrambled. And they think all kinds of other ways. And it seems to happen also with union officials. They get in office, and they're in there for a while, and next thing you know, they're acting like the bosses.
And that's what happened with us. They're the boss. I think that's what they wanted to prove to us, that they are the boss and not the members. That's why they took our voice away. It was personal. Whenever you have a company willing to go back to the table, you never take it out on your members. Never.
Okay, well, that's our show for this evening, folks. Hope to talk with you next week.